TNKR Media.
Welcome to Today's Entrepreneur, a program about the entrepreneurial spirit that drives Quebec business, presented as always by FL Montreal. My name is Dan Delmar, and sitting in for Michael Newton today is Euros Malekic. Euros, welcome back to Today's Entrepreneur. Nice to be with you.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be back.
Let's start with our news and notes. Of course, on the program today, we're going to have another inspiring entrepreneur. And, well, there's no way of really sugarcoating it. We're going to talk about diapers on the program today. We're going to talk about baby diapers. And if you are a new parent, you definitely want to tune in to listen to David Dupont and La Petite Ourse, who he says he's revolutionized the whole game. And they've had some pretty interesting success over the last few years. So that is coming up, eco-friendly, reusable diapers. But first, let's get to some chat about what's making news in the business world. And this piece from Harvard Business Review on the future of learning and how sort of learning culture is changing in workplaces. We have certainly a lot more flexibility in many cases, Euros, when employees are remote. It's important that we also give them the flexibility to learn on their own and to sort of pursue intellectual pursuits, because that could be good for personal development, but also good for business as well.
Yeah, Dan. And I mean, there's been a lot of neglect of physical and mental health over the last 2 years, especially. And this article goes over some recommended lifestyle changes to fight against bad habits that may have developed over these last 2 years. And overworking and not paying attention to your body and mind could obviously contribute to some bad results. So I think there's certain steps that you could take that may sound simple, but that can make a big difference in your life. So as cheesy as it sounds, you need to drink a lot of water. One glass of water a day is not going to cut it. They say you need 8 glasses of water a day. Granted, that seems like a lot. It's 2 liters. But look, you get water from other sources like fruit. So maybe you set the bar somewhere in the middle and you stick to that. Water is available to you. It's good for you. There's no reason not to drink water. It's a little bit of discipline involved. I think people always tend to look for a shortcut with whatever they do. They want fast results. You see that with diets. And you just got to be, you got to realize that the good things that you want to last, they take a long time and they involve some level of discipline. And with a lot of repetition, in adopting these good standards, you develop a routine. And I think that's where you want to get it to. They also talk about taking breaks to allow for your overall productivity to increase during the day, moving more, whether that's some moderate to vigorous physical activity that you enjoy, obviously provided that your doctor approves it, building some strength, flexibility, cardio training. This next one, finding calm, is a tough one for sure. When you feel like everything is going against you, you need to listen to your body, stop, be a little bit in the present, adjust and adapt. I think that's a big aspect, in business in general when you're facing adversities, and basically being cognizant of what's going on around you. Some people meditate. I haven't gotten there yet. I do want to maybe try doing that in 2022, is meditating a few minutes a day and trying to be more present. Setting work boundaries. That's one I struggle with, admittedly, Dan. What I've learned over the years is that if you don't respect your own time, no one else will. You need to set that tone that you want. Obviously, you got to be prepared for what that entails in terms of other people's expectations of you and manage it. And then the last thing that the article goes over, which is a very, very important one, is not to procrastinate with your own health. You got to get your annual checkups. I think a lot of people have been missing those during the pandemic. There was a study that showed that more than 40% of people said they skipped their medical care in the last 2 years. So you got to start prioritizing your health, being proactive with it. And if there's an underlying issue, go get checked out every year and see if you can flag something to do something about it ahead of time before it becomes a bigger problem.
And the article doesn't say this, but go easy on the coffee would be my advice. I'm not a coffee drinker myself, but Yeah.
Everything in moderation. That's what they say, right?
This piece from Fast Company: after a health scare, here's how I'm changing up my remote work habits. And this is someone who's telling the story of who was in intensive care with a very serious condition, and how she believes her work habits contributed to that. It's really tough to see someone who's suffering at work. What advice would you give if you feel that your coworkers even are not necessarily, might be suffering in their jobs?
Right. This article, I mean, it goes over how our mind isn't at its best or at its most creative when it's being weighed down constantly by tasks and projects. Like as soon as you wake up, Dan, you got a million things going through your mind of what you need to do that day. Decisions you got to make right away when you get up. And I think the author of the article was getting that point across that, you need to do almost like a brain dump. And that's essentially taking a few minutes, whether it's the night before or the beginning of the day, to empty your mind. You'll have negative thoughts undoubtedly that are going to go through your mind, and you want to really streamline your focus of what's most important, leaving room for new ideas to flourish. And another thing is, using your passions and incorporating them into your day. Like make room for things that you really want to do. And that's going to help propel you for the rest of your day. It's going to give you motivation, because not everything in your job or your career is going to be full of stuff you love to do. So you got to just be okay with that. There's parts of your job, and sometimes bigger parts, depending on the time of the year, that are things you just don't want to do. But the reality is you got to do them. And according to Psychology Today, there was a PhD contributor that posted something very interesting, that individuals who are passionate for their work, whether scientists, entrepreneurs, operation managers, whatever else, are able to use the energy from their passion as a motivator for their other work. So there's definitely a lot of power at play here if you focus your energy correctly, and it's building the right amount of momentum from that activity that you enjoy to propel the rest of your day.
Let's go to this piece from Inc.com. A new study reveals the top 3 small business cyber threats that you've probably never heard of. Let's go through them one by one. What are your thoughts on these big 3?
Yeah, Dan. So it was a study in January 2022 by a San Diego-based CyberCatch, that's a cybersecurity platform provider. And it was focusing on small and medium businesses, and basically revealing that more than 30% of small businesses, and bear in mind that it was a US study, but I'm sure there's a lot of similarities here in Canada, those businesses have weak points that hackers can exploit. And basically fraudsters, they set their sights on things that are easier. So smaller businesses, smaller companies, because they have weaker safeguards in place. So what are the common threats? Well, someone could use a fake IP address to masquerade as an authorized device, and their goal is to really tap into the company's private system. They could be sending out phishing scams. We've all received those emails where there's a clickbait. They want you to click on something that looks benign in your browser, but actually, it's basically giving them access to your computer and your database. So one of the studies that was done, it was conducted by IBM a few years back, found that 23% of all security breaches are caused by human mistakes. So what is that? Weak passwords, answering spam emails, hovering over a link, but not realizing that it's going to take you to a URL on a website that isn't where you should be going based on what the link describes. And with the amount of emails that go around in today's world, Dan, with more people working remotely, emails are one of the main tools of communication. So what can you do as a small business to protect yourself? Well, just having an IT person or a team is not enough these days. You need prevention, detection, and a response controls, basically like a disaster recovery plan, but for cybersecurity threats. So having a perimeter security, a firewall, spam protection, training your employees is a very big one. Holding seminars in-house. Your team members should know about the different types of phishing scams that are going on right now, the most relevant ones they should be aware. And the last thing I'd say is establish a strong password policy. We often see now with bigger softwares, 2-step verification processes. Those are definitely good to make sure that the user going on is the intended user. Maybe one last thing is to test what you've implemented to make sure it works. Don't just put all that effort and put something out there and then let it go on autopilot. You got to be aware and on top of things all the time.
And time to get to our entrepreneur profile. A very interesting idea, very on point for a generation of millennial parents who want to be eco-conscious. Let's welcome in David Dupont, owner of La Petite Ourse. David, welcome to today's Entrepreneur.
Thank you. Very glad to be here. Looking forward to this.
So before we get into the in-depth profile, the easiest question, what is La Petite Ourse?
Perfect. Really quickly, La Petite Ourse is a cloth diaper company. We're replacing disposable diapers. I'm talking about millions of disposable diapers every year, not going to the landfill. So accessories, making it easy and fun for parents to do it.
Excellent. And Euros, really a great example of a young business that I think is appealing to a new generation of eco-conscious parents.
Definitely, Dan. And David, I'm so excited to have you on. I have two young children, my own 3 and 4.5. So I know the drill in terms of what soil diapers and all that stuff involves. So I'm curious to hear, maybe you can run us through how it replaces what most people in my generation would know as a disposable diaper. So from my understanding, these reusable diapers did exist, in fact, previously, right?
Yeah, they've been around forever. I mean, your parents were probably using that on you. It's just that they're so evolved now. It makes it so easy to use cloth diapers. Basically, you're taking a diaper that's waterproof on the outside. On the inside, you have something to absorb the pee. And what people don't know, and people think it's disgusting to play with poo and scrape off the poo. You do not dirty your hands anymore. Like, I guarantee it. There's a little net that you put. I didn't bring it because we're on the radio, but there's a biodegradable liner. You just place it at the bottom of the diaper. So when you change your diaper, that's what you remove. Anything stinky and solid is gone. So by that point, all you have left is these bamboo inserts full of urine that you just keep in a bag for 3 days. And then just put everything in the wash and you're done. So every time you do that, you're saving the environment, you're saving money, and it's just working. And believe me, 10 years ago, we were doing baby shows and people would no, I won't say it, but they were afraid to come to our booth. They're like, oh, no, I'm not that eco-friendly. Like, I'm not willing. But now that it's demystified, we have lineups when there used to be baby shows, obviously, but we'd have lineups for days. We'd sell about 5,000 or 6,000 diapers in 3 days. It was ridiculous. People would line up and they wanted to hear about it, wanted to know about it. And then when they found out how easy it was, then it was simple for them to make the purchase.
So David, you're clearly very passionate about this. It sounds like it came from a personal experience. Tell me about the origin story.
Yeah, sure. So Agatha and I, we've always been kind of entrepreneurs, and we had real estate. We've done a bunch of stuff. But when we had babies at first, my oldest is now 10 years old. He has pretty much the same birthday as the company, and that's not a coincidence. We were shopping for all sorts of stuff, the crib and everything, baby clothes. But we soon realized that diapers were by far the most expensive thing that a family was going to buy for the next 2 or 3 years. So we started looking into cloth diapers for ourselves and realized that there was this little gap in the market where people were spending almost $1,000 on their kit because most of them were companies that were made in Quebec, made in Canada, which is fine. There's a huge need for these companies to be there. But we came in and we say, you know what, we're going to source, we're going to have our companies made from trusted suppliers. We went to China soon after finding our supplier to build that relationship. So it came from that, basically saying, let's do it with our children. So our products have been tested on our 2 boys. They're now 8 and 10. They survived the tests, and now the company is soaring because of those 2 little boys testing our products.
And how much has social media played a role in spreading the message of, using the reusable diaper versus the disposable one?
Well, look at it this way. Our target market are women between the ages of 23 to 37. How important is social media for these people, you think? It's incredible.
Right.
Are the engagement on Facebook at first, once we started, we have I think 30,000 people now on Facebook. But before, even when we had 8 or 10,000, these generic posts would have I don't know, like 2,000 likes and sometimes 600 shares. So mothers wanted to tell other mothers how exciting this new trend was. And now it's moving towards TikTok, Instagram, you name it. We have to adapt, right?
So is that your main marketing vehicle then? Is social media the way that you found the most success in marketing?
We've always had two legs to our growth. So yes, for the B2C or the business to client sales, for sure, like Instagram, email marketing, that kind of stuff. But a lot of it was word of mouth, moms in the set clubs doing their exercise and showing off their new diaper prints. But like that part has been super important. But the B2B side also put us on the map. We have 400 retailers now only in Canada. We have retailers across Europe, and we have retailers in the US as well. So just being present where families are shopping is just as important for company reliability and name.
In terms of your own marketing, you being the spokesperson, you're very energetic and passionate about the product. In terms of just coming right out with talking about poo and pee, you kind of just volunteered that right off the top. You know, in the old days, we used to be in advertising, there used to be like the blue liquid in the TV ads. You know, no one would talk about this in such direct fashion. Is that something that you do consciously? Did you think about whether or not you would be talking about poo and pee on the radio and be that explicit in your marketing?
I'm selling diapers, right? And you know what? We're parents. Like we're like I know what it's like to change diapers. I was actually a stay-at-home dad. So I'm a bit too passionate. I don't know why I've always liked this, but my team I drain my team. I have too much energy. But anywho, yes, I mean, I changed diapers. Like, how many diapers did I change? I know the reality of being a parent. I've been vomited on by my child. That's what it's like, you know, and now they're 8 and 10. It's different challenges, but for sure, there's first few years are pretty hard. And why sugarcoat it? It is what it is, right? We're just true to ourselves, I guess.
And the company is going on 10 years, you're saying, right?
Yeah, soon 10 years.
And how have you managed, you know, the success and the growth of the company, and in terms of, you know, also being present with your own family? I think a lot of people struggle with that in general, with boundaries, with you know, running a business and being present in their personal lives. So what's your recipe for success there?
I'm going to be contrary to what most entrepreneurs would say, like, oh, I work like 80 hours a week and I have to because that's the only way we're going to go. No. I'm seriously minimal effort, maximum results. So you work smart. Everything you do has to be smart. So we outsource anything we can't handle. And we build these trusting relationships around the company. And it's based on those relationships that we can scale, because we realize quickly, like in the first years, we started in the kitchen, right? Because we didn't have a basement. And then it was growing too big. So we actually had a basement dug out under the home. So we lifted the house, put the company in the basement. 6 months later, still too small. Moved to our first official location. 6 months later, a container was coming, and the lady said, "Like you're like I've Googled it. It's not going to work. You know, I know where it's going." And I said, "Don't worry, I have a plan." I didn't have a plan, but then we got our first warehouse. It was a 4,000 square feet warehouse. And then from there, we were like, oh, it was too small. After about a year and a half, it was too small. So we said, okay, let's go to like 15,000 feet so we have room to grow, or let's look for better alternatives. Because at that time, we were working way too hard. So we actually now established the biggest and best decision we've made is a partnership with a 3PL, a third-party logistics. So it's a fulfillment center. So they receive our containers and they're part of our family. And you see how we are. There's empathy and there's really strong relationships in everything we do. So that third-party logistics is there to help us and deal with the day-to-day. So I don't work that much, to answer that question.
You have the hit product, you're resonating on social media, people are loving you, and all of a sudden you're telling us you're outgrowing your basement, you're outgrowing your warehouse. Tell us about the journey as you're growing and how to grow responsibly if you are in that lucky situation of having a hit product.
Yeah, perfect. We've always been a really lean company. We've tried to be Okay. The first few years, we were always out of stock, like always out of stock. And then we did the opposite. We said, okay, let's never be out of stock again. And then inventory went crazy. We were up to like 1.3, 1.4 million of inventory. And we were like, okay, we're talking like, hundreds of thousands of diapers. And then we're like, okay, this is too much, and this is pre-COVID. And then now let's scale. So basically managing inventory for us was key. We're a product-based business. We're not offering a service. We're not cleaning the diapers. We're just selling the diapers. So making sure that we can follow the demand, follow the scale, not be out of stock, but just have the right amount for those 3 months. Of course, then COVID happens and containers get even more complicated, and it takes, like, a container would cost $5,000 before, now costs $25,000. So like basically all I'm trying to say is you have to adapt to the growth and where it's going. We're a small team. We're 6 like in-house admin staff from marketing, communications, logistics, and then my wife and I we're coordinating the whole show. And we have an amazing graphic designer. Shout out to Florence. She's everybody loves her. And she designs the prints, and that's one of the reasons why people love the diaper so much. So it's to be able to adapt to whatever's happening. So stores close, and we have a lot of retail stores. So COVID happens, stores close, well, then online presence has to be super strong. So we actually had, we're one of those companies during the COVID situation that actually benefited. I hate to say that because I know so many people suffered, but it was like hardware stores, right? People were renovating their kitchen. Well, people went back to buying essentials, and diapers by far, but like it was really, and we felt it on the online stores we have across the world. People threw themselves at cloth diapers, so there was a really big boom during those COVID years, and we were able to adapt to that with inventory planning, with social media presence. So all throughout the way, basically, we're a small team and we adapt, and we have partners that allow us to scale. So Trade Systems, our 3PL in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, they're amazing. And if we would not have done that, then we would have hit roadblock after roadblock because we couldn't scale. But now, because we have them, all I have to do is import new products, and I can open the US. We have opened the US market, and that's going super well. And they're fulfilling US and Canada. And because we have that expertise, and you keep on learning, well, hey, let's repeat it in the UK and in France. So we actually have a third 3PL in France. Called Happy Colis. They're actually owned by a Quebecer that's over there, and we have a warehouse in UK as well. So anyway, we learn, and you grow based on whatever you've learned last year or this year or yesterday, and you make the best decision you can for tomorrow. I think. I'm not sure if that's clear at all.
No, it's very, very clear. I mean, it sounds easier now when you describe it. I'm sure it was challenging in figuring out, at what point is best to do that. When you started, David, did you ever do any drop shipping, or was it always, ordering quantity, figuring out the right amount of inventory for each SKU?
Yeah, I had friends in the drop shipping area, and they said, Dave, you're working towards drop ship, but no, we wanted to be so close to our clients. We needed our clients to know that they can trust us. So the first thing we did is we put a 2-year warranty on our products. Nobody in the world does that or did that. Now some people have started following that trend, and because we want the client to trust us, they need to receive their product fast. The quality has to be perfect. So I want to see all of the products that go, and they need to buy with confidence, knowing that if something happens, they call, we answer, they email, we support. Like, we're always there. Empathy is at the core of what we do. So it all ties in together, if you ask me. So no drop shipping because it didn't reflect the values we had in the company. Not that drop shipping is a bad thing, but for us, definitely not an option.
Let's talk about R&D. What is the next innovation? And maybe talk a bit about the material as well that you use for the diaper.
Yeah, exactly. So actually talking about R&D, in the last months, we've actually launched our first, and in Canada, we are the first, I believe, to launch a product based out of recycled plastic. So our diapers, and this is where we want to take the company in the next 2 years, because we have a lot of stock rolling, but it's to slowly switch towards using polyester polyester that comes from recycled plastic. So that's just even more sustainable. And we've always been really involved in the community as well. So I know it's not R&D per se, but it's to say that I think companies that make a difference are companies that really do get involved. So we support a lot of charities. We've tried to start to have a business set up actually in Haiti, where we could send products and have people sell feminine hygiene pads in Haiti. So looking at the next years, the R&D, I will say, is logistics. It's pretty heavy to be everywhere. We're a small team. We're learning, but in terms of products, we need to stay on top of where we're going. Right now, it's going to be recycled plastic, where we're going to be in a year, probably a new product coming out that I can't talk about now. But for sure, internally, there's growing pains. As you guys have asked that question, but it's to concrétiser, sorry for the French word, but everything we've learned, we're trying to now bring it down. I don't want to go the ERP route. I don't know if you guys know what an ERP is, but anyway, is structuring what we do so that we can just keep on rolling for the next little while.
I'd love to know, the statistic also. Like, there's definitely in terms of how many, say like going green, that initiative and bettering the environment with respect to not having as many disposable diapers around, and how you guys have contributed, to that. And how many have you sold? How many disposable diapers has that replaced? I'm pretty sure it must have a big impact after 10 years.
Well, I'm going to make it hard for the competition to know how many we've sold, because that's always a secret. But what I can say is we're well over 100 million disposable diapers that have not gone to the landfill.
That's amazing.
So if you look at one kit of 24 diapers, one of cloth diapers, it replaces 5,000 disposable diapers. So I'll let people that want to do the reverse math on that one. But that's a few hundred thousand diapers sold, obviously, and just picture 100 million. If anybody is listening and you've seen a full diaper, like when you're talking about disposable diapers, it's not when it's thin, it's when it's like soaked up for hours. Like 100, right. Like just visualize landfills, 100 million diapers that take 5,000 years, I think, to eventually disintegrate and find its way back to the earth. Whereas cloth diapers, you reuse them for one child, 2 children, 3 children, they're still good. And then you pass them on to your neighbor who's having children, right? So it's incredible, the impact. The last thing is you save $3,000, right? In buying cloth diapers. So like, it makes so much sense. And the young and the not so young parents are understanding that now.
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick, I don't know if it was back in the 60s, one of my partners was, my business partners was telling me there used to be a service that they would go around and they would own the cloth diapers. They would give it to the families, use them, and then, wash them for you, give them back. And it's nice to see the resurgence of that, all for good reasons.
Yeah, we're actually supplying L'Ange Bleu in Montreal, great company that do that. Catchou on the South Shore as well, great company. So a lot of those services actually use our diapers for that service exactly, and it makes that even easier for the parents, right?
David Dupont, La Petite Ourse, great job. Really love seeing entrepreneurs who just are able to not only recycle, but reduce, which is a really important part of the whole equation. So David, thanks very much. We'll have your one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur in a moment. But first, let's turn to our correspondent, Nick Moratis, tax partner at FL, to discuss a business owner's exit strategy and how to deal with all of that paperwork, especially when it comes time for tax season. Nick, welcome back.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for having me.
And so Euros, every entrepreneur needs an exit strategy at some point, right? And preparing that takes a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, for sure, Dan. I think that, it's crossing a lot of business owners' minds, especially now, and it might not always be the best time, but you got to consider your options and make sure that you align yourself with the right professionals to do things strategically. So definitely want to hear what Nick has to say about this with respect to some basic tax planning and exit strategies.
It's funny because David, I listened to your story and you're just starting out. That there's all that motivation and all that excitement, and you're building up your business. And a lot of times people come to me is where that excitement has had them. You know, you're into my age in the 60s, maybe the 50s, and at some point in time, there's always an exit with a business. Hopefully, it's an exit that is profitable, like a sale to somebody else, and that's where we come along as to what do we do for small business owners in Canada. One of the things that every single file I've ever been involved in, the first question they're asking me is, am I getting my capital gain deduction? A capital gain deduction basically allows a business owner to sell the shares of his business or his company. And the first, for 2022, the first $913,630 of the proceeds is tax-free, which is a savings of about $243,000 in tax. It's an actual savings. And everybody's concerned about that. So what we look for, like Euros and I working on clients, is are we structured so that the business owners can get access to that capital gain deduction on a sale? So, and that requires what? That requires a lot of planning. Maybe you're not even thinking about that at the beginning in the first years of your operation. That's not in your head. Your head is you want to build your business, but at some point in time, you got to start worrying about it. And unfortunately, we need time. So we need time to restructure. Are the appropriate shareholdings there in the company that would access this 913,000? Can there be multiple shareholders that get this 913,000 because it's by individual shareholders? And then we have to turn around and look at the Tax Act that says, well, it's not any business that can get this deduction. You have to be a business that meets the tests of the Tax Act, and it's essentially businesses whose entire assets are used here in Canada. So if you're expanding offshore, they're not going to give you this exemption if you're selling the business that is working offshore. If you've got too much cash sitting in the bank doing nothing, you're not going to get that either. So this is where we have to look at it, and we have to plan. Should we be looking at a trust? Because now the family gets involved, and then we can maybe multiply that 913,000. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, which I'll go really quick, which surprises me sometimes, is how well you handle your tax affairs over time. Obviously, it gets very important as closer you get to your exit that you're handling your tax affairs properly, because invariably the buyer's going to send in his advisors. They'll pour over your books and your tax records, and they'll come back with a list of deficiencies. That's what they're looking for. And those deficiencies are going to maybe cost the buyer X if ever the business is audited. And what are they going to do? They're going to either come back to you and say, well, we're not buying your shares because there's too much, not good stuff in there. Therefore, your capital gain deduction is gone because you have to sell the shares of the business. Or we'll negotiate something, but just know that there's a bunch of cash that's going to be set aside in escrow, and we're going to wait our 2, 3, 4 years before you get to see the cash, just to make sure that nothing comes back to us. So all this is preparatory work, and it's time to discuss with your advisors years before you're leaving to get yourself in a position. That's my advice to the business owners here on listening to the show.
And as we near the end of the show, time to turn to our entrepreneur, David Dupont of La Petite Ourse, and ask David for your one piece of advice for today's entrepreneur, sir.
If you would ask me 10 years ago, what are you going to be doing in 10 years? Would I be selling diapers? No. My wife and I are actually from the education background. We don't have much studies in business. So if somebody wants to succeed, if somebody wants to go in that field, Howard Thurman said, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go and do that. Because what the world needs are people who have come alive. So if entrepreneurship makes you not sleep at night for good reasons, like it does for me, then just go and do it. And then just learn as you go. That's the only way to do it, if you ask me. You go to school if you must, that's great. And if you can't, then just go and have fun.
David Dupont, thanks so much. And Euros Malekic, thanks so much for joining us today. Great story of a peer entrepreneur, Euros.
Yeah, definitely. And David, great job. It's really nice to see, the story you've given us with the business growth. And one quick thing I want to say is, unfortunately, I lost my father-in-law, who's my best friend, last year. And one of the things he told me is, before he passed, was don't sweat the small stuff. And I think there's a lot to learn from that. And seeing how, David, you've overcome adversities as your business has grown, and by adjusting and adapting and probably not sweating the small stuff. So kudos to you and good job, and keep growing.
Thank you, guys. This was fun. Let's do it again sometime.
For sure. Thanks very much, David. And thanks, Euros. We'll see you back here soon. On today's Entrepreneur, don't forget, Mike is back next week. We'll be chatting with Sarah Lambert, co-founder and CEO of Aura Medical. And they want to revolutionize physical rehabilitation for people with walking disabilities. Don't forget, you can listen to 13 plus years of today's Entrepreneur podcasts